Thank you, Mr. Werner. Good afternoon, everyone. Last time I spoke here, I spoke in the PM, and I got up here and said, good morning. And my wife was nice enough to nicely tell me that I said that when I sat back down. So this time I made sure I had the afternoon correctly. I'd like to extend a personal welcome to those who are visiting here. I see a lot of guests that we haven't seen here in a while. Saw them at camp, some of them. And I'd like to welcome those who are watching on the internet, either today or will be watching. This year at preteen Camp Buckeye, I had the opportunity to teach one of the 3 Christian living classes for the week. The Christian living classes were the first class to be taught right after breakfast each day. And each day I had a different group. And I started my talk or my class with the campers and asked them one simple question. I said, in life, we have to make a choice all the time. Tell me some choices you have already had to make today. And these are actual answers I got back from the campers. To get out of bed or not, what clothes to put on, what I want to eat for breakfast, if I want to be nice to someone or not. All of these answers are the same answers we each had to answer this morning. What time we got up, if we want to be nice to someone here at church. So the kids had the exact same answers that we all have as adults. Now, I went on during my class to ask the campers to come up with names of people in the Bible that had to make choices. And once they gave me a name, I asked them a question. Was it a good choice or a bad choice? And then I said, how did that choice affect others around them? So we spent about a half hour just talking back and forth in a very open dialogue about choices. In camp, I basically had 2 3x5 cards I used to talk to the campers on. The first one had the question I was going to ask the campers, and the second one had a verse, Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. It's a very familiar verse, Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. It reads, I have called heaven and earth as witness today against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursings. Therefore choose life, that both you and your descendants may live. This was also used at the teen camps this year, and I've been thinking a lot about just choices that we make in life on a daily basis, and I used that for both of the 2 camps I worked at this year. For all of us, living life is a constant process of making choices. While being awake, we cannot go an hour or a minute without making a choice. And to prove this, I'm going to ask you to make a choice of not to think about a choice for the next minute. And you've already had to make a choice. You can't even go a second, because the first thing you had to do was choose to do what I asked you or not. And then if you did choose to do it, every second you had to choose to continue to do that or not. And we make choices all day long. We make so many choices that we don't even realize how many choices we make throughout the day. Life is about choices. This afternoon, I want to look at 2 concepts of making choices in our lives. The first concept is really clear-cut and easy to explain. Black and white choices. Some choices, this is what I would call, do I do it, yes or no? And we've all experienced that. We can look in the Bible and see examples of what I call black and white choices. And God tells us, some example is, thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. These are very specific yes and no decisions that we can make. It doesn't take a lot of thought to it. I think most of us would say the answer is no to each of those. And we probably haven't really thought too much about that. In general, we would say that these black and white choices, for those who have either attended or have listened to the Wednesday night Bible studies about the 10 Commandments, are deeper than what we realize just on the surface. When I was listening to them, I realized they took thou shalt not murder and made a whole Bible study out of that, just one scripture or that one verse. But in general, they're pretty much yes and no decisions that we have to make. Which leads me to my second concept, gray choices. These are choices where we think there are no clear-cut decision on what to do. again, great choices. These are choices on the surface. There's not a right or wrong decision to make. These are the harder choices that we have to make each day. Do we eat at McDonald's or Wendy's? For some, this may be an easy answer to do. For others, we think, I can get hamburgers and fries at both places. It doesn't really matter. Another example would be, do I buy a red or blue car? At this point, we may utilize James 1, verse 5, and ask God for help. James 1, verse 5 reads, if any one of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and will be given to him. Or we could use another verse, Proverbs 1:5. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding will attain wise counsel. There are many other scriptures in the Bible that talks about making correct choices and getting input from other people to make choices. In the case of a red car or a blue car, some people will give you advice, don't go with the red car, you'll get more speeding tickets. I think we've all heard that be used as a reason not to get a red car. In researching that, I found, reading Forbes and several other websites that have done studies on, is that really true? Do people who have red cars get more speeding tickets? The answer is really no. It's more of the type of car you have, whether it's a red sports car versus a red minivan. Those who have red sports cars get more tickets because they tend to drive this faster. So the color of the car really had a very small significance of getting tickets. In making a choice, God, in great choices, is more concerned with the why and how we make those choices. Do we apply biblical thought and process to the why and how we make great choices? Whether we get a gray car or a red car or a blue car, God doesn't really care, but it's why we get that color of that car is what he's more concerned about. In the case of stealing, God is very clear on what he thinks on the why and how. The answer is no. But going back to Deuteronomy 30, verse 19, it says, life and death, good and bad choices. God says don't do it. He tells us what the choice is for those simple things. The great choice, do I buy a red sports car or a red minivan, is a little harder to know what God's thought process would be. We can tell ourselves, I really want a red Mustang. I can shove 3 car seats in the back seat of that for my kids. The guys at work think I'm really cool. When I pull up in a red Mustang in the parking lot, I'll be the talk of the office. Whereas compared to the red minivan, yes, it would be easier to put 3 car seats in the back of it. There'd be a lot more room for luggage when I could drive to the feast. But the guys in the office think I'm going to be this old man that drives a minivan to work. It's a thought process behind it. Do you want to be seen as being this young, hip person driving a red sports car, or the old guy driving the minivan? Yes, the insurance on the minivan is going to be a lot cheaper, and sometimes we can talk ourselves into decisions that we think, oh, okay, I can't really afford the Mustang, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then that leads to other decisions where, oh, I can't make the payment this week. Maybe I have to work on the Sabbath to pay for it. So a lot of times bad decisions lead to another bad decision. And on the surface, the first decision isn't all that bad. But it has a tendency to lead to other bad decisions. So if you bought something that was already in your price range, it wouldn't force you to make other decisions that may be harder to make. I'm not saying buying a red Mustang is wrong. If it's within your budget and meets your needs, then get it. But if you have a wife and 3 kids and it would be your only form of transportation, it may not be the best choice for you. And this just goes on with a lot of other choices in our lives. We need to ask ourselves the why and how are we making decisions. Are we playing video games late into the night and stay up until 3 o'clock and then we can't figure out why we're so tired the next day at school or work? Or we're driving around town trying to chase these little Pokemon characters or whatever, and you put your whole family in the minivan, you drive around and chase these things. Yeah, you're spending time with your family, but is it the best use of your time spending time with your family? I actually saw that on Facebook. The wife was complaining on Facebook that she was running around with her husband chasing Pokemon characters. And I'm like, wow, that's a good way to spend time with your family. Every choice we make is a difference maker. Just as we saw in Deuteronomy 30:19, we have the good, the bad, the blessing and cursings, life and death. Sometimes some of our decisions we make may not seem that important, but they have a tendency to lead to other decisions that are very important. Each day we have a choice to apply the lessons and principles that are found in the Bible in our everyday lives. When we make decisions, we have to know what we want to do and why we were doing it. And these principles can also be applied how we react to things. Every time we react to something, we are making a decision or a choice. Someone said something mean to you today, or someone else, you react to it. Someone cuts you off while you're driving down the road, you react to it. It's a choice. Someone parks their car on top of the parking line, and it prevents you from being able to park in that space. We all react to it. We probably all know how we want to react to it, but is it the best way to react to it? When we run into problems, we have to make a decision about the why and how we make decisions. A simple process is to ask ourselves 9 simple questions. Am I choosing love? Am I choosing joy, peace? Am I choosing patience? Am I choosing goodness, faithfulness? Am I choosing gentleness or self-control in how I respond or how I choose to respond to the circumstances that surround us? We can each try to commit ourselves in choosing to do these things each day to hopefully make it easier for us to make the right choices. The black and white choices are easy decisions to make. We still may make the wrong choice, but at least we know where God stands in those decisions. The gray choices are the harder choices we struggle with to know more what is right or wrong to do. Sometimes we need to spend a little more time thinking and asking God, what does He want us to do? As we learn to make better gray choices, we need to ask ourselves, will the result be a blessing or a curse? If we think about these things and apply God's principle to our daily decision making, we will start making better choices and cause ourselves a lot less problems. I encourage you to take time to look at some of the people in the Bible and see what choices they've made, why and how the result of that ended up for them. I did this with these campers, and it was amazing the responses I got back from them. We talked about Noah, Adam, and a whole bunch of other characters, and we kind of dug into it to help them understand the thought process of using godly principles to making choices. The choice is yours.